Assalamu alaikum. Joining me today is Sonia Jahan, very talented actress, mother, and restaurateur. She's also my niece. She's joining us from Delhi today, and at the same time, Sikandar Rizvi, who's a brother, my nephew, will be joining us from Karachi. He is a very successful restaurateur, and at the same time, I think he has to be the most eligible bachelor in Pakistan. Welcome, Sonia and Sikandar. It's so lovely to see both of you. How are you doing?
Doing
All well.
good.
Good to see you, Tina Popo.
I don't think I've been to Karachi in the month of June for a very, very, very long time. I think June,
I don't
July.
think we ever have Sikandar. I don't remember being in Karachi. We used to always be in France at our nanny's house.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you because your life has been so eclectic. You've grown up in Karachi, you've spent every summer in France, and now you're living in Delhi. You know,
Yeah.
this whole moving around and in different places. Plus, you know, not only that, Akbar Bhai, your father was a Muslim, your mother is Christian, Florence, and Vivek is Hindu. And
Yeah.
how have you been able to reconcile all of this for yourself and also for the kids?
So, I believe Vivek and I have very similar beliefs. We believe in God, and we believe, you know, what every religion teaches you to be good, to be kind, to be honest. And I think that's something we've been brought up, both of us have been brought up that way. And I think that's what we want our kids to be, focused on as opposed to a particular religion. And, I think I'm blessed in a way that Sikandar and I both have been exposed to two different cultures and religions. And, by moving to India and being married to an Indian whose family is Hindu, I think I consider myself blessed. I know a lot of people think it's just haram what I've done, but it's a choice that I made, and I'm very comfortable with it. And I think the kids are very lucky to have that. I think they're growing up to be very loving individuals.
Yeah, no, it wasn't specifically about religion. Just the fact that you belong to an interracial family. How has that served you throughout your life? In a way,
I mean, it's been difficult. I remember in school in Karachi, when I was in school, a lot of kids would be a little bit mean. There'd be a little bit of bullying, like, oh, your mom is Christian, and, that's terrible. And she eats pork and she drinks. And, it was just sometimes as a child, it was difficult to, just process that. But I think, my mom, our mom, is an incredible woman, and I think she's been so strong, and she's been such a, she's taught Sikandar and me that the main thing in life is really, and I know it sounds cliche, but it really is to be a good human being. It doesn't matter. You could be born a Muslim and not be a good Muslim,
Siki, what about you? You had, such luck with your restaurants. Do you think that being half French has actually helped you or hindered you being in Pakistan?
No, it's good. It's only helped me really instead of impeded me. It's always been nice to be having to have foreign blood in you if you're doing business, especially with food. So it's been an asset, I'd say. Definitely been an asset. It hasn't hindered me in any way.
There are not many people who would come back. Like, I would constantly be asked when I came back from Australia that, why have you come to Pakistan? When anyone has the option of living abroad, especially you as a young man, you studied in Switzerland and then you chose to come back to Pakistan to start your business.
I actually had a good job at Starwood Hotels in Amsterdam. And I was supposed to move to Chicago to work for the hotel industry there. But I had this 3-month break in between where I decided to come back and see mom. Mom had this thriving restaurant, Cafe Flow, and I was in the industry. So I went and I took the time to basically put things together. And I saw an opportunity there that there was nothing else except the top tier restaurants like Cafe Flow and the others, or the really like the fast food ones. So I thought I'll open up a business here to see how it goes. And also I think it did matter that when I came back, the fact that my mom was alone, it just made it like an obvious choice. Why would I go back when I can start a new business here and try it out and be next to my mother? And if it all failed, then I'd go abroad. But at the end, everything worked out.
But Sikandar also went, he went to a really good school in Switzerland. So I think his background training, he's got full training. I mean, even I have a restaurant in Delhi, a private members club. But between the three of us, Sikandar's the one who has a formal training.
Sona, you worked in the Bombay film industry and you worked in the Karachi film industry. You've worked with Asif as well. But of course, that's a much bigger industry and that's got a lot more money involved. But in terms of relationships and people and how things actually work and work gets done, is it very different?
Pakistan's home to me. So, when I work in Pakistan, whether it's a commercial or a movie, and I haven't done many, it's ghar ki baat, like there's a comfort. Firstly, I'm staying at home and my family's there. So, but I think as far as the industry is concerned, yes, it is smaller, but they're very professional. And, from the makeup artists to the cinematographers, to the directors, to, anything to do with all the technical aspect is the same, if not better in some areas, And I mean, in India, every time I tell someone that I'm from Pakistan, because I say it very proudly, they all say, "Oh my God, humko, wo drama dekhne hain." They love Pakistani movies and Pakistani dramas, and they appreciate Pakistani music. They even come and tell me, your Coke studio in Pakistan is by far, like, it's just incredible compared to what we have in India. And it's true, Pakistanis have this, they're extremely talented and creative people.
When you did join the Bombay film industry, I mean, I'm talking about, you were very young. And I remember you made the decision to get married.
Yeah. So,
You're all young.
But
I mean,
young.
yeah, but I remember you made the decision to get married before your film was even released. Now, I remember at that time, film actresses and all, there've always been double standards within our culture, where it was okay if the hero is married and has 10 kids, and that's all right. He's a man, he's acting. But as far as the women were concerned, they didn't want any married women to be on the screen, etc. They wanted all of them to decision to get married even before your first film was released.
I remember when I decided to get married to Vivek, and Akbar Khan, my director at the time, he was just aghast. He said, "You cannot get married right now. The movie is releasing in 6 months. Are you crazy? You're just, this is like, it's a career suicide," as far as he was concerned. But Tina Papa, for me, it was not a question of career. I was in a very happy place in my life, and I made a decision, and I really don't, because I wasn't really driven by becoming a famous movie star. I mean, I was lucky enough to have Dado as my grandmother, and I've seen fame up close, and I've seen that it's a lot of hard work, dedication, and it doesn't necessarily, it's not all good. And I saw the struggles. That, I mean, I was very young, obviously, but I mean, I'm sure Dado went through a lot of struggles, but personally, I saw how it affected my father to have this very famous mum. And it was difficult, and I'm sure it was difficult for all the children, including you. Yeah. So I think, I had made a decision that for me, my family was far more important. And I really wanted to find the right person and have a family. And if my career took off, it took off. And touch wood, after the film was released, I was lucky enough to do a few more films.
But you've always followed your heart, and I've always admired that about you. With a lot of passion, you've gone ahead and done the thing. I'm thinking, what about you?
My foolish heart sometimes. It's a foolish heart.
Vicky, how was your experience of having done a film here as well?
I think she was always more artistic one, the more prone to be the star, to go into the movies and the film business. I don't know how it happened. For me, it just happened. Like I decided one point to just start saying yes to everything that could happen, and this happened when Asad did an ad for Asad Haq, and he called me for a audition, and I don't know what it was for, and he wanted me to cast me for that role, and I was like, okay, I'll do it, and I thought it would be a lot of fun, it'd be a great exposure. So we went to Lahore for 45 days, and to be honest, I had a great time. I actually really enjoyed it.
So
But I remember when Sikandar called me and said, I've been offered to do a movie and everything. I think I was speechless. I was like, you?
I remember that.
I was like, what the hell? You're going to be like, you're going to act?
Sikandar was so shy and quiet growing up. He was a lot more serious and.
Was I
yeah,
shy?
He was not serious. He was just a very awkward. He was a very awkward child. Not serious. He was just very awkward. He didn't know how to behave around people. He was a bit, no. I mean, he was, yeah.
What attracts you most in a woman?
This will be an entire.
I want to know that.
Zoom call. I've thought about this a little bit, like, having been in 1 or 2 or 3 relationships, that I think what really matters at the end of the day, what I would like is someone who is empathetic, who understands, we understand each other. So someone who's actually a friend and someone who's actually empathetic.
I wanted to ask both of you, you mentioned your father, who's my brother, and you mentioned Tado, who's my mother, and her being this famous has affected me in different ways. But how has it been for you guys, being her grandchildren and being Akbar Bhai's children? How has it helped and how has it pulled you back at times? Or what big lesson have you learned from both these people's lives?
Dado is Dado, right? She's not Madam Noor Jahan. I've seen Dado in close quarters where she's not in front of the camera. She's always been this incredible human being. So I remember living in Lahore, and her coming back from the studio, she was not madam anymore. She was just Dado. She'd be sitting in her room and she'd order chai, and I remember the Kashmiri chai we used to. Homa Papu used to make these big, things of Kashmiri chai, and Dado used to take Pond's cream and remove all her makeup coming back from the studio. And tissue paper used to be just coming out. So for me, she was just a normal person, but I have to admit that it's helped me in a lot of ways. It's helped me in even getting a platform to get into acting and to do commercials. There was no way I would have come to India to do a movie if it wasn't for Dado. And I remember when I was auditioning and I got the role, Akbar Khan said to me, we have to change your name. And I said, what do you mean? Because I'm Sonia Rizvi. I'm Dada is Shaukat Hussain Rizvi. So I was Akbar Rizvi's daughter, Sonia Rizvi. And he says, no, so we'll call you. And he came up with these names like Dia. And I said, no, I'm not calling him Dia. And, like stage name. And then eventually he's saying, why don't we just keep it Sonia Jahan? And I said, if anything, that's the closest I can get to changing my name, because I'm not, that was for him, it was a marketing thing. For me, it was giving me a chance to get into, so definitely being Noor Jahan's granddaughter has helped me in many ways. I think the only negative, and I can't say negative, is that I didn't get to spend as much time as I would have liked to with her, because she was so busy and she was always surrounded by people. So I didn't have the same relationship that I had like with my nani, for instance,
Yeah,
where we would cook together, or she taught me how to do stitch and all that stuff, the grandmotherly thing. So there's good and bad. We'll always be compared. Physically, we'll be compared, how beautiful she was, and oh yeah, you have her eyes, or you don't have her mouth, or there's always something. She was very graceful, and I don't think I have that grace. But I'm also very, don't laugh, Sikandar. But I'm also a very self-critical person, and that's why I don't think I've ever really pushed myself to make it in the films, because I just don't see myself to be good enough.
Oh my
And
God,
it's tough.
Sonia, I'll stop you here. You know, I was interviewing Asim Raza, and one of the questions was, who do you think is the most underrated actor in Pakistan? And guess what he said? He said Sonia Jahan. He
Really?
said, she is so talented. Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah, she
I think,
downplays us. Yeah, she definitely downplays us, for sure.
yeah. He said she's one of the most talented actresses I know, and if she only took it seriously, and I think she's one of the most underrated actors in Pakistan.
But it's typical for me, you know, I have the luxury like Sonia did to have spent as much time with Dado, you know,
Yeah.
because she was in Lahore. I don't have memories from when I was living in Lahore like Sonia did. My earliest memories go back to when we moved to Karachi, and by then we were already living in separate homes. She was Dado for me. I used to go see her with my father, you know, and I remember Eid, which was a lot of fun all the time. It was very
Yeah.
entertaining. You know, family gatherings, dinners, but you know, I never really saw her in as Noor Jahan or in the prime of her life before. Like I did spend more time with my maternal grandmother, my mom. So it wasn't the same experience that I had, but she was a grandmother.
I wanted to ask both of you, really at heart, do you feel more Pakistani or more French?
Pakistan.
100%.
without a thought, both of you responded.
I mean, of course, I've lived here all my life. You know. No, I'm definitely consider myself more Pakistani.
You know, I'm asking these
No,
questions also because
I feel definitely more Pakistani, and the reason is because if I go to a market in France, or I go to a bazaar in Karachi, I feel like I'm with my people when I'm in a bazaar in Karachi, whereas in France, sometimes I'll even play the tourist. I'll talk like I'm not from France. Because I'm just like, I don't want to handle these people.
being in Pakistan and being half Pakistani, do you think you've also suffered any racism towards you?
No, not at all.
Stuff, but I don't think so.
The opposite, I feel like they'll be like, oh wow, you know, you're the French side, you got a French family to go to. So it's more the opposite. I never felt any form of racism or a group.
Actually, I think it depends mostly on color. If you have a darker skin color, maybe they're a little meaner. But if you're a little whiter, then they
But
sort of
it's
look up to
true.
you.
But it's
That's a
so
different.
true. But it's true, Tina Popo. They actually, I think, because of being French and being a little, being fair-skinned, you know, people who don't know me and don't know my background, or they always look at you like, oh, they'll always give you a little bit more of that extra, yeah. It's a. But this is something that I face even here in India.
So which city has your heart? Karachi or Delhi?
Saying like more and more frequently whenever you come to Karachi the last 3 years, that you could imagine yourself living here, that you could imagine you like the pace, you said that, you have said that, but
Well, you
I
never
never
know. You never know. After this lockdown is over, I might just land up in Karachi because if our business packs up, and not just me, the kids, Vivek, we're all coming. We're all coming and moving into your apartment.
Yeah, what city has your heart, Siki? What is your favorite city in the world?
and over the years I realized that I've got everything I need here. So this is home. So this is first and foremost the first place for me. But I have that bit of Europe inside of me. So like I crave going back to France.
And both of you went to the Everest Base Camp.
Yeah.
Yes.
What inspired that, and how was it?
I got there before Sikandar.
What? I was sick. I couldn't do it. I had altitude sickness in the end, I think. But Sonia's very strong, by the way.
No, it was an amazing experience. This friend of mine who does these expeditions had asked me, would you be interested? And I told Sikandar, I said, we've never done a brother-sister holiday. There's always been mom or someone around us. Why don't you come? And it was in October, and his birthday is on October 7th. And on that day, we had reached base camp. Poor boy, he was a bit sick, but we managed to get a cake, which was
What are you
Like
talking about? I was
when we had
absolutely
to,
fine.
when we had to cut the cake, it was like a brick,
It was a
you know,
rock.
because
One best piece of advice that you've ever received.
Huh?
don't give a shit what people say, just do it.
I think don't waste time, really. You know, like you won't get it back.
Now, one piece of criticism that you think is valid about yourself.
I think I need to love myself a bit more. I need to stop being self-critical all the time. I think I just drive myself a bit insane by saying I should have, I could have, you know, da, da, da. So I tend to be a little bit harsh with myself. But I mean, it's okay.
But it
I'm
doesn't
dealing with those, I'm
last
dealing
too
with
long.
those voices in the back.
I think I become an ostrich when I've got certain things to deal with. Instead of just dealing with it, I just don't want to know about it, and I become an ostrich.
He puts his head
Put my
inside.
head in the ground, and I just say it exists. So I try to run away from it. That's a problem.
And what about this quarantine? Do you think we've learned something from this? Do you think we'll come into a different world, or do you think we're all just going to go back to our same old, same old?
No, I think it's been actually I think there's a silver lining to all this. I think definitely I and everyone around me, I think we've really learned that it's okay to take things slowly. It's okay. You don't need to rush and do things all the time. It's more important to value your relationships and spend time with, like, I'm spending time. My mom, like, I always used to spend time, but now it's a lot more. Like, I'd wake up in the morning and have breakfast with her, which I never used to. And these small things, right? Like, I never used to do. And I think they should continue, and they will continue.
I think that for the present moment, yes, we are in a situation where we are spending time with our loved ones and family, and but I think unfortunately, when things do get back to some form of norm, I think we will go back to the same. I think it's tough. I think very few people will actually take this and change permanently. I think it's definitely going to be part of it. This is history. What we're living, what we're going through is insane. I think I was telling Vivek yesterday. I said, you know, there's this lack of trust now, which I'm sensing. You know, amongst people. Like, you know, you meet people and you're like, you know, you do sense the anxiety that people have, and I hope that trust factor doesn't. We don't start as a society not trusting each other.
By trusting, you mean that people are not sure whether someone's infected or not infected, if someone has
Yeah,
COVID.
like, where are you coming from? And what are you doing? And where have you traveled? And, you know, all this stuff. Which is like, you know, what the hell? Why you? It's a bit much.
We're taking it really lightly here. No one's that suspicious. People are very lax here. I mean, there hasn't been really a lockdown since, I think, those first 7 days where I think people were scared to venture out of the house. They thought they'd get arrested. No one really cares much at this point. I think people are getting more fed up. So I think we're very lax here.
I do feel that there is a stigma attached to, usko ho gaya, and people hiding that they've got it.
That's
you know, and there is this.
But that's happening here as well. That's happening here as well.
I do feel that there's a stigma.
There's a bit of a negative connotation to it. It's like, oh, you know, like.
I've asked Florence to join us. She is Sonia and Sikandar's mother. She's my sister-in-law. She came to Pakistan when I was 4 years old, and since that day, I have absolutely loved and adored her. She has been my idol for everything graceful. Welcome, Florence. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for this fantastic compliment. Thank you.
I was talking to Sonia and Sikandar about being French and being Pakistani, and I wanted to ask you, your roots are very strong in France, and yet, you know, when you separated from Akbar, my brother, you chose to live in Pakistan, right, with your children. Why is that?
So I started having my life, my friend, and I like this country. Whatever it is, good, bad, but I like this country. It has a wonderful people, wonderful opportunity. And I never regretted to stay here, because I think the way the kids, most of the kids respect their parents and their grandparents and the family system. It's so important, land of opportunity for people. See, so that's the reason here, and also the quality of life.
When you
Sorry.
say land of opportunity, I agree, because even Minna Popo tells me, every time I see Minna Popo, she'll
Yeah.
always tell me, uh, you should consider moving back to Pakistan because there's so much, she's come to India a couple of times.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she always says to me, she's like, you should really consider moving to Pakistan with the family because there's so much more to do here.
No, it's true. So I think it's you look at Sikandar. He was studying after 7 years studying abroad. He came to Pakistan, but he did not expect to be trapped here. But he came to see me, and then he realized that okay, it was my mom.
That's the truth. Going back to the earlier question, that's the truth. I was stuck.
I was so clever. I managed to make him stay there, opening a little business here, helping for this business. Then he started growing and growing. The opportunity here, I limitless, really.
That's true. For many years now, even before you started Cafe Flow, you've been struggling with MS, with multiple sclerosis. How you always in a good mood, you always look beautiful. And I know it's a struggle. I've seen you struggle with it as well. But your outward demeanor, it's always positive. It's something that has always inspired me. With a disease like this, it's so easy to get depressed. It's so easy to get pulled down, to not start a business, to say, oh, main bichari, how can I do this, or something like that. But you've always had such spirit to go on and
Thank you. But I think it's just my character, which is like this. Luckily, I'm blessed. And also, you have to look around you and you realize that, my God, so many people suffer so much. So I'm still very lucky. Okay, I can't walk, or very, very badly, but I know people who can't walk at all.
She's very lucky, but that does not change the fact that she's also a very, very positive human being.
Yeah.
And she's always looking at the good side of things. If you complain about Pakistan, if you say anything negative about Pakistan to mom, she'll really decimate you right there.
Flowers, you've also known my mother, when she was younger.
Yeah, I knew your mother when she was at I would say the peak of her career. No, so I was very close to my mother-in-law. We used to spend hours and hours discussing, and she used to tell me a lot of her life, which was fascinating. And I just regret why I should have written everything. Yeah. I should have written everything. I have so many fond memories of your mother. And when I think of your mother, I just think that she was so funny. She was hilarious. She was so much fun.
Now, one song of my mother's that you like, all of you, one song each.
I love that song. I just love that song.
Yeah. Sikandar,
for me, I think it is that song that mom, well, you mentioned Tokyo, I think, where she was singing Shabazz
Kalanda.
Had that recording.
It's amazing.
Incredible, that voice. It gives me goosebumps.
It's absolutely amazing.
We put it loud in the house. So I think for me, that's the number one.
Sikandar, one of my earliest memories is being 5 years old and standing at Seven Sharif and my mother singing that song at the shrine.
I mean, what do you think she was what she was? Because she was very focused, very organized, and obviously very hardworking. We all know that. As your mother, it was definitely the highlight of my life. The drama, the music, the madness, everything I loved. Everything I loved. It was so nice speaking to you, and we'll have this one chat. But I won't be able to tell you everything.
But this has been lovely. Thank you, Sikandar. Thank you, Sonia. I have loved talking to all three of you.
Thanks, Tina. Nice. We managed to speak for us.